who you become, is far more important than what you get. The reason is simple. What you get can always be taken away, but who you become, no one can take that from you. That's why I believe in focusing on becoming who you want to be. Think about it. What would happen if you invested in yourself with the same energy you invest in what you want to achieve? What kind of person would you become if you spent your time and effort shaping your character, your habits, and your mindset, instead of only chasing after goals? The question isn't just, what do you want to get, but who do you want to become in the process? Now, becoming who you want to be starts with a decision. That's the key word here, decision. You've got to decide who that person is. What kind of person do you want to wake up as tomorrow? See, most people are living their lives based on who they've been told they are. They've adopted identities from their past, from their surroundings, from their circumstances. But here's the real challenge. Will you let your past define who you are, or will you define who you want to be in the future? We've all got two choices. One is to accept the default setting life has given us. The second is to intentionally design the kind of person we want to be. I'm telling you, it takes effort, but the rewards are endless. Now tell me, what are the qualities you admire in others? Maybe it's someone you know, someone you work with, or maybe it's a public figure. Think about the qualities you respect in those people. Integrity, discipline, generosity, compassion, whatever it may be. Now, why do you admire those qualities? I'll tell you why. It's because deep down you recognize that those qualities have value. They have value not only in society, but in shaping your own life. But here's the critical part. You can become those qualities. You can cultivate them, just like a gardener cultivates a garden. Think about it this way. Your mind is like a garden. If you don't plant good seeds, weeds will grow automatically. You don't have to plant the weeds. They show up on their own, don't they? But if you want the roses, the fruits, the vegetables, you've got to plant them intentionally. It takes work to water them, nurture them, protect them from the weeds. Becoming who you want to be works the same way. Most people are passive gardeners in their lives. They let the weeds of negative thinking, doubt, and fear take over. But if you want to be someone different, if you want to grow qualities like discipline, courage, and perseverance, you've got to plant those seeds consciously. You've got to work on them daily. You've got to water them with effort, with attention, with intention. So, how do we plant these seeds in our minds, in our lives, and in our actions? It starts with vision. You've got to have a clear picture of the person you want to become. Just like a gardener has a plan for what to plant, where to plant it, and when to water it, you've got to have a plan for yourself. You can't just say, I want to be successful, or I want to be happy. Those are too vague. You've got to be specific. What does success mean to you? What does happiness look like? Who is the person who lives in that state of success and happiness? Write it down. Get a pen and paper and start writing. There's something powerful about taking thoughts out of your mind and putting them onto paper. It makes them real. It gives them weight. Write down the qualities you want to develop. Write down the habits you want to break. Write down the vision of who you want to become. Let's say you want to be someone who is disciplined. You admire people who can stick to their goals and see them through. Now, if you want to become that person, you've got to start practicing discipline every day. It's not enough to want it. You've got to do it. And how do you practice discipline? It's in the small things. It's in deciding to wake up 30 minutes earlier, to read, to plan, to meditate, whatever it is that moves you closer to your goal. It's in making the decision to stick to your schedule when your mind tries to convince you to take it easy. See, discipline isn't a big, flashy thing. It's not about making one grand decision that changes everything. It's about the little choices you make every single day. And as you make those choices, something happens. You start to see yourself differently. You start to believe that you are disciplined. And once you believe it, it becomes a part of you. You've planted that seed, and now it's growing. The same goes for any other quality you want to develop. Maybe it's courage. You want to become someone who faces fear head on, who doesn't back down from challenges. Well, how do you practice courage? You don't need to wait for some life-threatening situation to come along. You practice it in the small moments, by speaking up when you're afraid to, by stepping outside of your comfort zone, by taking on a project that intimidates you. Every time you choose to act, despite the fear, you're cultivating courage. You're becoming more of who you want to be. And remember, who you want to become is directly connected to the people you surround yourself with. It's an old idea, but it's as true today as it was centuries ago. You become the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. If you spend your time with people who complain, who make excuses, who don't push themselves to grow, guess what? That's who you'll become. On the other hand, if you surround yourself with people who are positive, who are disciplined, who are constantly improving, that's who you'll start to become. Don't get it twisted. I'm not saying you should cut people out of your life, but I am saying you've got to be conscious of the influence others have on you. Pay attention to it. If you want to become someone who is positive, generous, and hardworking, find people who embody those qualities and spend more time with them. Learn from them. Observe how they think, how they act, how they respond to challenges. The more you're around that energy, the more it will rub off on you. Here's another key point to all of this. Learn how to talk to yourself. We've all got that voice in our heads, don't we? It's constantly talking, constantly judging, constantly interpreting the world around us. The problem is most people let that voice run on autopilot. They don't realize that the voice in their head is shaping who they are. If you're telling yourself, I can't do this or I'm not good enough, guess what? You'll act according to those beliefs. Your self-talk is like the steering wheel of your life. If it's negative, it'll steer you in a negative direction. But here's the good news. You can change that voice. You can train it to speak positively, to speak words of encouragement, to remind you of your strengths instead of your weaknesses. The key is to become aware of it. Pay attention to what you're saying to yourself throughout the day. When you catch yourself saying something negative, stop. Replace it with something positive, something empowering. At first, it might feel strange. But over time, just like any other habit, it becomes natural. And as your self-talk changes, so will you. Now let's talk about something that's often overlooked, but incredibly important. Integrity. Being who you want to be means being someone you can respect, someone you can trust. And that starts with integrity. Integrity is about being honest with yourself and with others. It's about following through on your word, doing what you say you're going to do, and living in alignment with your values. Without integrity, everything else falls apart. You can't truly be the person you want to be if you're constantly breaking promises to yourself, if you're not living up to your own standards. Integrity builds self-respect, and self-respect builds confidence. Confidence isn't about being perfect. It's about knowing that you can trust yourself to handle whatever comes your way. It's about knowing that you're doing your best to live up to the vision you've set for yourself. So how do you build integrity? You start by making small commitments to yourself and following through. Don't overcommit. Only you can change your life. That's it. The responsibility is yours. The power is in your hands. Now that may seem like a heavy load at first glance, but I'm telling you, it's the most liberating realization you can ever have. Because if you're in control of your own life, that means no one else can decide your future. No one else can dictate your happiness, your success, or your growth. Now, why do so many people struggle with this idea? Why do people drift, blaming circumstances, other people, or external factors? Well, it's simple. It's easier to blame something or someone else than it is to look in the mirror and say, it's up to me. That's a tough pill to swallow. But here's the thing. Growth begins the moment you take full responsibility for everything in your life. Your mistakes, your failures, your setbacks. Because when you own them, you can change them. The truth is, we all face circumstances that we didn't choose. Some of us had tough beginnings. Some of us were handed challenges that seemed insurmountable. But here's the key. It doesn't matter how you started. What matters is how you finish. And finishing strong comes from your decisions, your choices, your actions. Now let me ask you something. What are you doing with what you've got? Are you spending your time wishing things were different, or are you using your time to make things different? That's the big question. Because the time is going to pass, whether you act or not. 5 years from now, 10 years from now, you're going to arrive. The question is, where will you arrive? Will it be at a destination you chose, or one you drifted into? There's a story I love to share, and it comes from a simple lesson I learned about a boat in the wind. You see, the same wind blows on us all. It doesn't matter where you come from or where you've been. The same wind of circumstance, the same wind of opportunity, the same wind of difficulty. It's blowing on all of us. What matters isn't the wind. It's the set of your sail. And that's something only you can adjust. Think about that for a moment. The wind could be blowing strong in your face, but if you know how to adjust the sails, you'll still make progress. On the other hand, if you let the wind control your direction, you'll end up wherever the wind takes you. And that's no way to live. Success is a sail you adjust. Growth is a sail you adjust. It's not a matter of waiting for the perfect wind or the perfect condition. It's learning to set the sail regardless of the conditions. And that, my friends, is where the change begins, with you. So So how do you start making that change? Well, the first thing is to be honest with yourself. Brutally honest. Don't sugarcoat it. If you're not where you want to be in life, ask yourself why. Now, the answer won't always be easy to hear, but that's okay. It's the tough questions that lead to breakthroughs. What habits are holding you back? What beliefs are limiting your potential? What excuses are you making to avoid taking the necessary steps? Because here's the truth. Excuses will always be there. Opportunity won't. You've got to challenge yourself daily. Are you doing what it takes to get better, or are you making excuses? Are you feeding your mind with what will help you grow, or are you filling it with distractions? Only you know the answer to these questions. And only you can make the decision to change them. But remember, change doesn't happen overnight. It's the result of consistent effort. It's like planting a seed. You don't plant a seed today and expect a tree tomorrow. It takes time. It takes care. It takes commitment. But if you stick with it, one day you'll wake up and find that your life is transformed. You've grown. You've built something worthwhile. And that's when you realize the power of small, consistent actions. Now, some people think they need to wait for motivation to strike before they can take action. Let me tell you something about motivation. It's fleeting. It comes and goes. But discipline, now that's what creates lasting change. Discipline is doing what you need to do, even when you don't feel like it. It's getting up early, putting in the work, going the extra mile, even when no one's watching. Because here's the secret. The most important person who's watching is you. You see, self-respect comes from keeping promises you make to yourself. When you say, I'm going to change, and then follow through, something incredible happens. You start to trust yourself. You start to believe in your ability to make things happen. And once you have that trust, nothing can stop you. But when you break those promises, when you say, I'll start tomorrow, or I'll do it later, you erode that trust. And that's a dangerous place to be. Because if you can't trust yourself, who can you trust? I'm telling you, life isn't about perfection. It's about progress. You don't have to be perfect to start changing your life. You just have to start. Start where you are with what you have. Don't wait for everything to be perfect. Don't wait for the perfect timing, because there's no such thing. The perfect time is now. And let me remind you, you don't have to do it all at once. Just make small improvements day by day. You'll be amazed at how those small changes compound over time. Think about your habits for a moment. Are they leading you toward the life you want or away from it? Because the truth is, you don't determine your future. You determine your habits, and your habits determine your future. That's why it's so important to pay attention to the little things you do every day. They might seem insignificant, but over time, they add up. I know what you're thinking, Jim. I've tried to change before and it didn't work. Let me tell you, failure is part of the process. You're going to stumble. You're going to make mistakes. But that's okay. Failure is not the opposite of success. It's part of success. The key is to learn from it, adjust, and keep moving forward. You see, every time you fail, you're one step closer to figuring out what works. Every setback is an opportunity to grow, to get stronger, to refine your approach. And here's something else to remember. You don't have to do it alone. Find people who support your growth, who challenge you to be better. Surround yourself with those who encourage you, not those who pull you down. Because the people you spend time with will influence your mindset, your attitude, and ultimately your results. Now, that doesn't mean you cut everyone out of your life, but you need to be selective about who you allow into your inner circle. If you hang around with negative people, it's going to rub off on you. But if you surround yourself with people who are striving for more, people who are committed to their own growth, you'll find it much easier to stay on track with your own goals. Now, I want to ask you a question. What's the vision you have for your life? What do you see when you think about your future? Because you've got to have a clear vision if you want to change your life. You've got to know where you're going before you can start the journey. If you don't have a vision, you're like a ship without a compass, drifting wherever the current takes you. So take some time to think about what you really want. Be specific. The clearer your vision, the more likely you are to achieve it. And once you have that vision, break it down into steps. Don't let the size of your dream intimidate you. You don't have to climb the whole mountain in one day. Just take one step, and then another. And before you know it, you'll be halfway up. You'll look back and realize how far you've come, and that will give you the strength to keep going. Now, here's something that we cannot neglect. Attitude. Attitude is everything. It's how you approach the challenges, the setbacks, the victories. A positive attitude doesn't mean you ignore reality. It means you face reality with the belief that you can handle it. It means you approach life with a sense of optimism, a belief that things can get better, because you're going to make them better. So what's your attitude toward change? Do you resist it or do you embrace it? Because change is inevitable, but growth is optional. Life is always changing, whether you like it or not. The question is, are you going to change with it or are you going to let it pass you by? Remember, only you can change your life. No one can do it for you. It starts with a decision. It starts with the realization that you are in control of your future, no matter where you've been, no matter what has happened. That's the power you hold, the power to decide, the power to act, the power to create the life you want. So, my challenge to you is simple. Take responsibility. Set your sail and start today. How many people do you know who've allowed their mind to control them instead of the other way around? I want you to think about that for a moment. They wake up, and before the day even begins, their mind is already deciding for them how it's going to go. Their mind starts racing with thoughts of worry, doubt, fear, anxiety. The mind is a powerful thing, but I'm telling you, if you don't take control of your mind, it will most certainly control you. You see, the mind is like a wild horse. Left unchecked, it will run wherever it wants, without direction, without purpose, without focus. But when you learn to control it, when you take the reins, you can guide that horse. You can harness its power. The difference between success and failure in life is often not about circumstances, resources, or even talent. It's about how well you control your mind. The mind is the battleground where success or failure is determined. It's where we win or lose. And make no mistake, it's a battle. Every day we face the challenge of controlling our thoughts. The mind can be our best friend or our worst enemy. It can lift us up to the highest of heights, or it can drag us down into the depths of despair. And the difference between those two extremes is what we allow into our mind and how we choose to direct our thoughts. Now, you've probably heard the old saying, as you think, so shall you become. It's an ancient idea, but it's as true today as it ever was. The quality of your life is directly related to the quality of your thoughts. So what are you feeding your mind? What are you allowing to take root in your consciousness? If you're constantly feeding it negativity, self-doubt, and fear, then don't be surprised when your life reflects those things. But if you feed it positivity, belief, and hope, you'll see your life start to change in ways you never imagined. Think about this. The mind is always working. It's always processing information. Even when you're not consciously thinking, your subconscious mind is working behind the scenes, shaping your beliefs, your attitudes, and ultimately, your behavior. This is why it's so important to be mindful of what you're allowing into your mind, because your subconscious is always listening. And if you let it absorb negativity, that's what it will produce. So how do we control our mind before it controls us? First, we have to recognize that the mind, like any other tool, requires training. Just like you wouldn't expect to pick up a musical instrument and play a masterpiece without practice, you can't expect to control your mind without discipline. Discipline is the key. And I'll tell you, it's not easy. It requires effort. But the rewards of a disciplined mind are worth every bit of the work it takes. When I was younger, I wasn't always the most disciplined thinker. I allowed myself to get distracted, to focus on things that didn't matter, to worry about things I couldn't control. And it affected my life. My productivity suffered. My relationships suffered. And most importantly, my sense of well-being suffered. It wasn't until I learned to take control of my mind, to focus my thoughts, to be intentional about what I was thinking, that things started to change for me. And that change didn't happen overnight, but slowly, day by day, thought by thought, I began to see the power of a disciplined mind. One of the best ways to take control of your mind is through the practice of self-awareness. You've got to become aware of what you're thinking. Most people are walking around completely unaware of their thoughts. They're on autopilot, letting their mind run wild, reacting to whatever comes their way. But self-awareness is about stepping back, observing your thoughts, and asking yourself, is this thought serving me? Is this thought moving me closer to my goals? Or is it holding me back? Now, don't get me wrong. Self-awareness isn't about judging yourself or beating yourself up for having negative thoughts. We all have negative thoughts from time to time. But self-awareness is about recognizing those thoughts and deciding whether you're going to let them stay or whether you're going to replace them with something more constructive. Here's a technique I use that can help you take control of your thoughts. I call it thought replacement. When a negative thought pops into your mind, don't try to resist it. What happens when you try to resist something? you give it more energy, more power. Instead, replace it. If you're thinking, I'm not good enough, replace that thought with, I'm capable, I'm strong, I'm worthy. If you're thinking, I can't do this, replace that thought with, I can handle this, I've faced challenges before and I'll face them again. You see, the mind can only hold one thought at a time. It's like a glass of water. If the water is dirty, you don't get rid of the dirt by focusing on it. You get rid of the dirt by pouring in clean water. The more clean water you pour in, the clearer the water becomes. In the same way, the more positive, empowering thoughts you pour into your mind, the less room there is for negativity. And I'll tell you something else. Your mind believes what you tell it. If you keep telling yourself, you're not good enough, you're not smart enough, you're not capable, your mind will believe that. But if you start telling yourself a different story, your mind will believe that too. This is why affirmations are so powerful. Affirmations are simply statements that affirm what you want to be true in your life. They're a way of training your mind to think in alignment with your goals and aspirations. Tell me, what are you affirming in your life? Are you affirming your potential, your ability to succeed, your capacity for greatness? Or are you affirming your limitations, your fears, your doubts? What you affirm, you become. So be mindful of your words. Be mindful of the story you're telling yourself, because that story will shape your reality. Now, one of the most difficult things we have to face when learning to control our mind is fear. Fear is one of the most powerful emotions we experience, and it can easily take control of our thoughts if we let it. Fear of failure, fear of rejection, fear of the unknown. These fears can paralyze us, keeping us stuck in place, unable to move forward. But here's the thing about fear. It's all in your mind. Fear is a product of your thoughts. And because it's a product of your thoughts, you can control it. When fear shows up, don't run from it. Face it. Acknowledge it. And then ask yourself, is this fear real, or is it just a thought? Most of the time, fear is nothing more than a thought, a projection of what might happen, not what is happening. And because it's just a thought, you have the power to change it. You have the power to reframe it, to see it in a different light. Here's something I learned a long time ago. The best way to overcome fear is to take action. Fear thrives on inaction. The longer you sit and stew in your fear, the bigger it becomes. But when you take action, even a small step, you break the grip that fear has on you. You start to see that fear is just an illusion, a creation of your mind. And the more action you take, the less power fear has over you. Now, here's another important part of controlling your mind: focus. What you focus on expands. If you focus on problems, you'll find more problems. If you focus on solutions, you'll find more solutions. If you focus on lack, you'll experience more lack. But if you focus on abundance, you'll start to see abundance everywhere. The mind is like a magnifying glass. Whatever you focus it on becomes larger in your experience. So, where is your focus? Are you focusing on what you want, or are you focusing on what you don't want? Are you focusing on the possibilities, or are you focusing on the obstacles? You have the power to direct your focus. You get to decide what you're going to give your attention to. And I'm telling you, your attention is one of the most valuable resources you have. Don't waste it on things that don't serve you. Don't waste it on negativity, on distractions, on things that pull you away from your goals. Be intentional with your focus. Choose to focus on the things that move you closer to where you want to be. And here's another thing about focus. It's not just about what you think. It's about how long you think it. You can have a positive thought, but if you only think it for a moment and then go back to your old patterns of thinking, it won't make much of a difference. You've got to sustain your focus. You've got to keep your mind fixed on what you want, even when distractions try to pull you away. Now, I know what you're thinking. Jim, that sounds good, but it's easier said than done. And you're right. It is easier said than done. But here's the good news. You can get better at it with practice. Just like anything else, controlling your mind takes practice. You won't sort of master it overnight, but with time and effort, you'll get better at it. And the better you get at it, the more control you'll have over your life. I want you to think of your mind like a garden. A garden requires care, attention, and effort. If you don't tend to it, weeds will grow, and those weeds will choke out the plants you want to grow. But if you're diligent, if you pull the weeds, if you water the plants, if you give the garden the attention it needs, it will flourish. Your mind is the same way. If you don't take care of it, if you don't pay attention to what's growing in there, negativity, doubt, and fear will take root. But if you're diligent, if you're intentional about what you plant in your mind, if you cultivate thoughts of positivity, belief, and possibility, your mind will flourish. You'll see the results in your life. Your relationships will improve. Your career will take off. Your sense of well-being will skyrocket. But it all starts with controlling your mind. You have to be the gardener. You have to be the one to decide what gets planted and what gets uprooted. And that takes work. It takes discipline. It takes effort. But I promise you, the rewards are worth it. So what's the first step? How do you begin to take control of your mind? It starts with a decision. You have to decide that you're going to be in control, that you're not going to let your mind run the show anymore. You have to make a commitment to yourself that you're going to do the work necessary to train your mind. And once you make that decision, you've got to follow it up with action. Start by becoming aware of your thoughts. Start paying attention to the story you're telling yourself. Start replacing negative thoughts with positive ones. Start focusing on what you want, not what you don't want. And most importantly, don't give up. It's not always going to be easy, but if you stick with it, you'll start to see the results. Years ago, I met a man who was struggling in his business. He was a hard worker, but no matter what he did, he couldn't seem to get ahead. He was frustrated, and he didn't understand why things weren't working out for him. So, we sat down and talked. And it quickly became clear to me that his problem wasn't his work ethic or his skills. His problem was his mindset. He was constantly focused on what wasn't working, on all the things that could go wrong, on all the reasons why he wasn't succeeding. And because that's where his focus was, that's what he kept experiencing. I told him, you've got to change your focus. You've got to start focusing on what you want. not on what you don't want. It wasn't easy for him at first. His mind had been conditioned to focus on the negative for so long that it took real effort for him to shift his thinking. But over time, he did it. He started to change his focus, and as he did, his results started to change too. His business began to grow, his confidence increased, and he began to see opportunities where before he had only seen obstacles. Here's the point. When you control your mind, you control your destiny. You have the power to shape your life by shaping your thoughts. But it all starts with you. No one else can do it for you. You have to be the one to take control. And I want you to know that it's never too late to start. It doesn't matter how long you've been letting your mind control you. It doesn't matter how many negative thoughts have taken root in your consciousness. You can start today, right now, to take back control. You can start to plant new thoughts, new beliefs, new possibilities. Remember this, you are the master of your mind, not the other way around. Your mind is a tool, and like any tool, it's meant to be used for a purpose. But you have to be the one to guide it, to direct it, to control it. And when you do, you'll be amazed at what you can accomplish.